So, good evening again, everyone, and welcome to our Mooting 101 information session here put on by the Paralegal Town Hall in advance of our Town Hall Cup, which is sponsored by Trials College, which is where I am right now. I'll turn on my camera, I guess, afterwards if you can see me, but just wanted to make sure the slides were most visible. If you have not yet registered, and you have your phone in front of you here, you can scan the QR code to get registered. Again, the is some big prizes here. $500 to the first place, or at least $500 to the first place team, $200 to the team that finishes in second, along with $100 to the distinguished oral advocate. If you are a current college or university student or recent graduate, you're eligible. Teams of two are $175. And again, it is taking place here at Trials College, the Mississauga campus, on September 27th and 28th. We'll talk a little bit more about the competition and again, lots of other awards and plaques and prizes too. But I did want to sort of get into, and I'll let our people speak here. I think Justin, you are here. Maybe you can say a few words there on yourself, and I'll
Uh,
turn it over.
yeah, thanks, man. Good evening, everybody. Justin Rochester. Most of you probably know me already, either from Centennial or from other mooting competitions or just from LinkedIn. I myself am a paralegal. I've been doing this for about 10 years. I got into the mooting circuit about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, thanks to JP Rodriguez, who opened my eyes to it and immediately fell in love with the idea of the competitive advocacy aspect and what it actually entails and helps the future legal professional prepare for as far as the real life need for such oral advocacy skills and research skills and all those good stuff. So myself and JP started the Paralegal Town Hall with the idea of integrating paralegals into the system more flawlessly, armed with more information and knowledge and a place to essentially call home. The mooting competition allows for everybody to kind of be on the same footing, whether you're a pre-law student or undergraduate or paralegal student. We're all legal professionals, and so it's good to see everybody together competing against one another. And as JP said, the reason why I use the words at least $500 for the first place, because you never know, it may go up depending on if we get more sponsorships and things of that nature. So it should be a really good competition. The case is really good. That's it.
Thanks so much, Justin. Um, I'll quickly go over myself here. So I've been involved with Mooting. I've coached some of actually at least one of you in the chat here, and I've taught a couple of you for many moons ago. So I've been involved in this space. I think it's a great way to build on oral advocacy, and I'll talk more about it. So for all of you who are first time or going to be first time mooters, again, don't feel intimidated. You got to start somewhere, and I think it's only going to improve depending on obviously what your plans are in the future, whether you want to become a paralegal or a lawyer. Starting now and learning and getting that experience of being on your feet is vital. And I'm happy that so many of you are signed up already, and I'm hoping for a great competition later this month. And again, to further cultivate you into strong oral advocates in the future.
Next up, we got Shania Francis. Please unmute and explain to these fine people just who you are.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good to see everyone here. JP and Justin pretty much already covered everything. Hi, Alex. But yeah, as future legal professionals, obviously oral advocacy is something that's extremely important. Going to court, just being able to advocate for your client, think on your feet, things like that. I've been involved with competing in moots in the past. I've also organized several moots, so I'm super excited. It's a really good case. I wish I could moot this case because it's such a good case, but I'm really excited to see you guys and see what you come up with.
And I just saw Alex there pop her head in. So Alex, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Hi. Thanks so much for your patience with me logging on. My name is Alex. I'm a paralegal student here in London, Ontario. I have about 2 years of working in criminal defense and provincial offenses as a law clerk and legal assistant. But I have decided to take the next step in my career and become a paralegal. Um, my undergraduate experience, I did my bachelor's degree at Western University, was filled with pre-law students and pre-law initiatives, including mock trials, moots, policy pitch competitions, and I have most experience in running these events. I've recently gotten into coaching and competing. I have 2 or 3 mock trials under my belt, and I really enjoy using what I've learned in my legal program and any CPEs that I take I want to engage with it. So I really like mock trials and the idea of practicing advocacy skills, practicing the application of the law onto different fact scenarios, and kind of compete with my peers to see, who's actually doing their readings versus not. So it also reinforces a lot of the core curriculum that I've spent the last year learning. It's a very good experience to meet and network with people, judges. I've had the pleasure of meeting real judges in Ontario and then giving feedback to, where I should improve, where I still have room to grow. And that is a lot more valuable to me than just reading from textbooks. Although I love to read, I find that moots and mocks are very important in the student learning experience. So that's just a little bit about me.
I like the way you said that, moots and mocks. That's going to be a new t-shirt.
There you go. So let's start from the very basics here. And I got, this is from information from the Osgood Cup, which is one of the, or maybe the preeminent mooting competition. So a number of you have mentioned, obviously, mock trial experience. Mooting is essentially mock trial at the appeal level. There's no witnesses, there's no evidence, there's no cross-examinations. It's just you, the judge, and your arguments. So how is it different, right? Some of you may have gone to law school or are thinking about law school, or you've read about mooting in law school. And here it's real cases. And we're really excited. It's a great case. It just came out um, just over a month ago. So there's a lot of information, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But it's a real scenario. So this case has been argued at the Supreme Court of Canada. And it's a real case. There's lots of resources from it that I'm going to share. So you stick to kind of what is referred to in the decision itself. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to do any outside research. You don't need to file a factum. I remember when I moved in law school, that was like the biggest drain, was to write a whole legal facta. There was like, even awards for, the best legal facta that was submitted. But, it then ended up being a very significant time requirement to go through it and all of that, right? So here it's an actual case. There's lots of resources on it. It's the case of IM, which we'll touch on in a bit. But again, any moot, most of them that I've seen at the undergraduate and college level tend to do the same thing. They take an actual case that's gone to either the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, and then create a fictitious body that's above the Supreme Court of Canada. For anyone who may remember from your own studies, I think it was the British House of Lords, still prior to the 1930s, actually was the appellate court above the Supreme Court. So either way, then it's an argument for those who were unsuccessful at the Supreme Court to further appeal it to whatever the fictitious body is. Unlike mock trials, as I said, there's no witnesses, there's no exhibits of evidence, there's no cross-examinations. It's just, again, you and your submissions to the court. And unlike debating competitions, if any of you have done debate in a high school or undergraduate, the only person that can cut you off or interrupt you are the judges. So the other sides will sit attentively. They may be furiously taking down notes. They can't give their issues. They can't grandstand like they do in Parliament, and heckle you or things like that. So again, it's just you and the judges with their questions. And believe me, you will be interrupted as you progress through the rounds, in any competition more and more often, especially if you have Justin as a judge. Yeah, I don't know if either Justin or Alex or Shania want to add anything more, but again, it's arguing. Sometimes it's a hypothetical case, but focus on legal reasoning, research, and oral advocacy. And you have the appellant, and then you have the respondent. So again, get familiar with that terminology that we are representing the appellant, and on behalf of the appellant, on behalf of the respondent, even though in the case there may have been a crown and they could have been an accused.
Yep. So again, as JP said, mooting is very important in a lot of ways. It develops critical thinking and legal analysis skills. As I was saying in my introduction, there really is no underselling the absolute importance that these type of things play in your development as a legal professional. Being able to research and understand the issues of a case, as well as articulate and argue them. These are things that are not only transferable for your own practice, but also make you highly employable. It's absolutely necessary, in my opinion. It improves public speaking and persuasive argumentation. Again, a lot of us may not be, comfortable with the idea of getting up and litigating, or speaking in front of people. And I think mooting's a really, really good way to ease yourself into it. It can be a little intense, admittedly, as JP said, the judges do or will interrupt you. But that's all good because it kind of helps you stay on your toes. Sometimes when you're giving sentencing submissions, for instance, in the criminal field, there's no lack of judges who are willing to interrupt you to get clarity on the point you're making. And so being able to be asked a question, not get kind of knocked on your butt, being able to essentially, reconfigure or answer the question and get back on track is a skill in itself. And I think mooting does a really good job of honing that skill. And of course, it helps prepare for real life court advocacy. As I said before, if you're really truly getting into this profession, whether it be a paralegal or a lawyer, you only want to sit in the office for so long. Eventually, you're going to want to stretch out your legal muscles and get out there and start advocating. And even when you're doing court appearances, there's some advocacy skills there, right? You have to explain why you would want an adjournment, for instance, in the criminal, or even in the POA, or sometimes even in civil when it comes to adjourning a hearing or whatever it may be. In civil, things like settlement conferences or even just the actual trial, these skills are 100% important. And I would suggest that every school, every paralegal program in my mind should have a mooting competition, simply because of I can tell you from, for instance, Shania, she was already a pretty bright student, pretty smart and attentive, but when she got into mooting, it kind of brought it to the next level. I could see it as her instructor, the absolute change in the way in which she held herself, the way in which she analyzed and thought about case law, or even just the application of case law, or the different jurisprudence that goes into making laws sorry, not making laws, sorry, case law and things of that nature. And maybe Shania can speak on that in the next slide when she's unmuting and detailing what's next.
I think you've been voluntold there, Shania. So
yeah, even voluntold.
Yeah, so definitely I agree with 100% with what Justin said. Like, it really did take me to the next level. It really helped with me being able to articulate my points, my thoughts, being able to read case law and understand what's happening. Kind of like in first semester, it was like, what is this? What's going on? Like, but having that practical experience is completely different from just being in class and listening to a lecture or listening to the theory. So for the structure of a moot, there's an introduction, then the appellant does their submissions, and as they mentioned before, the judges will interrupt at any time. You have a set time limit, which you guys can all see from the package. It sets out all the time limits for each round. Then the respondent will do their submissions. As I mentioned before, there's questions throughout, so the judges can question you at any point, and that does feed into your time. So your time is not paused when the judges start asking you questions. And then there's an optional reply by the appellant should they choose to exercise that right.
Thanks, Shania. Now, in terms of skills, and I think maybe Alex and Shania and Justin will add here as well. What you need, I think, critical is one of the things I always stress to students anywhere is preparation, preparation, preparation. So you can't kind of just walk into this case and say, okay, maybe you've done public speaking competitions where you focus on the delivery, but you got to understand the case before you're able to apply it. So again, the first thing that I would recommend anytime you're mooting is you start by reading the case. I would try to at least start with reading a case brief of it, or some commentary. For those who are more auditory learners, you can listen to uh, some judges or lawyers or paralegals sharing about their thoughts on it. That helps you get a kind of foundation, but nothing's going to substitute reading the actual case itself. And one of the things that's a great advantage when there's Supreme Court decisions is you can watch the arguments that were made by counsel on this actual case, as you can in other moots with the same thing. I mean, that's a great way to learn. What did the judges ask them? How did they respond to it, right? And have notes to that, because maybe you'll get similar questions and you can prepare kind of that response. Justin, I don't know if you want to talk about in terms of crafting that. So after you've watched it, how to sort of put together your written submission.
Yeah, I mean, so either way, you're going to be doing the appellant and the respondent at least twice. And I'll let Alex jump in here as well, because she's really good at prepping people, and she'll be doing our coaching session. So, but so essentially what you're going to be doing is looking at the decision. And if you're very lucky if there's a dissenting decision, because that will help you, as in, I believe in this case, it would be for the appellant. And the points made by the justices will greatly inform your arguments as far as what was an error or what was done correctly on either side of the argument. And it's actually, and the best part about mooting is like everything you need is there. There's no, there's no crafting new arguments or new legal analysis. It's all right there for you. I'll let Alex jump in. I see her, she's chomping, she's ready to go.
I'm just agreeing with what Justin is mentioning. It's really about using the material that's provided with you. How much do you know the facts? How much do you know your theory of the case? I actually just did a moot today for my last class. This was our final assignment. It's worth like 80% of my grade for this class. And we've spent the last 4 weeks preparing on a civil and a criminal trial. So it's very interesting that it's a testament to preparation for sure. And I couldn't agree more with what my colleagues here have shared with you today. The key skills for mooting is being really strong in your oral advocacy. You're applying the case law and legislation precisely to the case that you're given. You don't have to do any outside research because you're training yourself. Pull out the facts from the case scenario. Look at what's some courtroom etiquette. Go watch some trials on those charges or on similar facts to see how our legal professionals approaching these cases, and then use that in your competition preparation. Knowing your case inside out for both sides is definitely very useful, and that's what will take you to the next rounds, so that you can prepare for anytime there's an objection. You can also prepare to be flexible to any of the judge's questions without losing your argument, so that you can stay on track and you're not flustered. Definitely practicing and knowing the facts of the case will help keep your argument structured. It'll be easy to follow, and then you can have a very clear and confident case to prepare no matter what side you're arguing for that round. So definitely, I couldn't agree more with what Justin has said.
Thank you, Alex. And one of the things that I hear a lot about is how do I use the case law that's presented inside of the decision? Firstly, again, to reiterate, everything you needed will be in the decision and or within the history of the case. So any case law that's referenced in the actual case can be referenced in your arguments. You cannot seek new case law to introduce that has not been contemplated in any level of the matter, whether it was in the original trial, the appeal, or the Supreme Court hearing. JP?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other big piece is it's not a speech writing or research writing competition where you put together, this great analytical, analysis, and then you just go and present it with great delivery skills, right? And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. And I know Aaron can certainly speak to, when we used to practice, where, sometimes, Justin and I were pretty ruthless with questions, right? Because that is a critical component, right? Is how can you respond on the fly, like you would in real life to a question? Because they know essentially what you're going to say based on what's written, right? But they may have questions like the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court that they want you to address, right? And so you got to be able to, when you're crafting, let's say 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 14 minutes, depending on the round, how many questions am I get? Can I quickly pivot to that and answer what the judges are asking? And a very effective way is to answer their questions and then segue back into what you were already talking about. So it comes across naturally and without skipping a beat, right? And don't kind of delay their answers. Like, hey, I'm going to get to that in like 3 minutes on, the next slide, like I would in a presentation. They want to know the answer now, right? So you give them the answer, even it might be a point that your colleague may be making. And if you can weave that within how you've already prepared points, it comes off really natural. Like you were anticipating that question, you have the answer, and you continue on. Shania, I don't know if you can share from your time mooting how that was, whether your first time or any subsequent time.
Yeah, definitely. So it's sometimes, especially your first time, like on the first day, it's 4 rounds, regardless if you make it to day 2 or not. So for me, my very first time mooting round 1, I was really thrown off by the questions because it was like my first time mooting, like a lot of you are. But by round 2, you kind of start to get the hang of it. Honestly, you start to feel a lot more comfortable in your arguments. As long as you know the case, you should be able to kind of like articulate your answers, and there's no real like per se right or wrong answer. It's really your interpretation of the case, right? So you really do have to kind of develop that ability to be able to think on your feet and respond. And as JP mentioned previously, that comes with practicing and as well as knowing the case inside out. Like make sure you know the case, you understand the case, and you understand the issues. Another thing is, as JP mentioned as well, there might be a point that perhaps your co-counsel might be bringing up after. You can't say, oh, my co-counsel is going to be bringing that up. No, you have to answer it because they're asking the question to you. So just be ready for that. Don't let it fluster you. Don't let it throw you off. Just know at the end of the day, you guys practiced, you know your stuff. And even though they're asking you questions, it's not because they're trying to intimidate you or anything. Actually, what I've learned is that the more questions they're asking is the more they're trying to understand your point of view, trying to understand your legal argument. If they're not asking you any questions at all, maybe that's the time where you should wonder, like, are they even understanding what I'm saying? So don't get thrown off by that, and just be prepared. And I would recommend as well, like watching the case or even listening to it. The audio, because that also helps you to kind of see the way it goes. It's kind of like a back and forth. It's not just you're here reading off of your script, it's more like a conversation. So you're having a conversation with this judge and you're kind of explaining to them, like, these are the issues in the case, and this is my point of view, my legal argument, my theory of the case, and this is why we would like you to rule in our favor.
Yeah, I'll echo Shania's thoughts there as far as being prepared. You should know your part and your partner's part through and through. It should not be where you're only focusing on the issues that you're dealing with. As Shania said, sometimes a judge will want clarity on an issue that you're not addressing at this current time. It's not appropriate to essentially, as Shania said, kind of kick it down the road and wait for your partner to get on it. You could speak to it in brief and say, my partner will elaborate further during their submissions. That's fine, but at least answer their question. And that comes from knowing exactly what's being asked of you and being prepared to answer that question. And Shania is right. You should watch the actual event. We have a corresponding watch party because we're working in conjunction with the Lions Cup. They've been very supportive of what we're doing here. It's put on by Cassandra Harvey and the Lions Cup. It is on September 12th at 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It's a pajama, pizza, and networking party while you watch the Supreme Court decision, as well as any other corresponding interviews. I know there's one by one of our judges who's speaking to Justice Brock Jones and another lawyer that was involved, that's deeply involved in youth matters. Very good, and they're discussing this case, so it's a really good watch. But yeah, so it's the watch party. Go on my LinkedIn. It's a couple posts down. I can probably add it to the chat when I get a second. But yeah, so that would be really good for you guys. And it's also, remember, this is a community. And one thing you'll realize quite quickly, the more moots you do this year, the more you'll see the same faces. And those people will be with you all throughout your legal career. There's no doubt about it. So it's really important that you guys take this opportunity to not just prepare yourself for a mooting competition, but to take advantage of all the networking and connections that you could make. And Shania is right. It was also sent via email, but for those who have registered. But if you have not registered and are interested in registering and going to the watch party, let us know and we'll make sure that you get the flyer. JP?
Right. So in terms of other tips for success, again, I think we've talked about some of these already, but again, make sure you know your case law and authorities well. Sometimes people will maybe bring up the case in the decision, and they'll just kind of make a comment like, according to R versus ST, and they're just repeating it, and then they're asked a question. Well, what does that mean? What was the context in there? And so don't kind of just make vague allusions to case law or even the lower court decision of the same case, the Supreme Court decision, unless you know what it stands for, right? So again, make sure you do know that, how you're incorporating it. So if you are asked a question of, well, in that particular case, this happened, you're able to respond to it and explain the connection.
Yeah, and JP, just to jump on that, I think a great example was the case at the Lions Cup. I think it was the Ali case, where Brown was being referenced as far as a racial bias test, and it's a lower court decision. So clearly, it's not binding; it's persuasive. But understanding its usage and why the court relies on it is important, right? And so, understand the difference between a higher court or lower court decision is important, but also understanding the fact that the court may take note and add it to their thinking, no matter if it's a higher or lower court decision as well.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, don't kind of go off track with your own kind of research that's not explicitly mentioned in the decision, because again, it may not apply, right? And then a judge who's observing is like, well, why are you bringing up this U.S. case or this landlord and tenant board decision when we're talking about a criminal matter, right? So don't kind of, though there's plenty of points that you want to focus on, don't feel the need to wade off script, so to speak, because I mean, one, you'll get penalized, but two, it's just not effective advocacy when there is very strong authority on point. Justin?
Yeah, especially when one of the lawyers who argued on behalf of the Criminal Law Association as an intervener is the Chief Justice for a second day. So they're really going to know the case. So adding in any other case law that's not pertinent to the conversation or even relevant will not help with your score, right? This is why Alex reiterated what I was saying earlier. It's important to understand everything you need is in the actual decisions. Just that's where you should start. That's where your research and that's where your structure should be formed and elaborated upon. It's I don't want to say it's easy because it's not, but when I say it's easy, I mean you're not scouring the internet and Canly and LexisNexis for all these relevant case laws that may apply. You have a lot in your quiver to move forward with.
Yeah, I mean, and building on that, I think there is obviously an element of speaking slowly and clearly. So it's not just simply knowing that, you need to be able to deliver it. And then that goes kind of again with the points you brought up before of how do you craft your points with anticipating questions, right? Because some people are effective, they review their points, they have bullets, they're not reading off the script that they've made, they've studied it, not necessarily memorized it, but they're able to deliver this great persuasive argument. But the second Justice Rochester opens up and says, well, can you explain how you would respond to, youth committing all of these crimes? Why shouldn't we treat them like adults? No, and then they might quiver, right? So you need to be able to incorporate that as well. And you also have to be professional, right? And as much as you have somebody on the other side, your fellow competitors, right? So it's the same thing. I'm sure Justin can tell you about working with the Crowns, that if you're kind of rude and you tell them, please govern yourself accordingly in emails, they're not going to want to work with you, right? So, effective tone in terms of being respectful, being professional, responding to the judges will work great. And lastly, don't just disappear with, you have a partner. Don't say, okay, I'm going to focus on these points. You focus on these points. And then let's do a quick run through. You should be aligned, right? I mean, some students, many of you are students. I can tell you the same thing I would tell you when you do group presentations. Speaker one talks, and then suddenly it's like a different world when the next person comes into it. So you should work closely with your partner to make sure you know both points, because you might have to think on the fly if you're asked a question that they're going to cover. Even if some people divide it up by, we'll focus on the appellate side, you focus on the respondent side, since you're going to argue both. But then when they're arguing the side that they didn't prepare, they're not as strong in grasping, those concepts. So I think, there is no substitution to work closely with your partner. You feed off of each other's energy when you're coming to these practice sessions with your other colleagues, maybe at the school, so that you can kind of fill in and know everything, both on the appellant side and the respondent side. Justin?
Yeah, and I think it's very important to jump on what JP said about being asked questions that may not be part of your prepared notes. And that's why understanding the issues are important. Understanding what you're advocating for is important. Also, the fact that you're able to argue on both sides of the issue, again, sharpens your ability to prepare, right? It's much the same when you're preparing for trial or even for sentencing, for instance. You want to anticipate the other side's argument so you can kind of fill in those. JP will laugh at this because it's true, but we kind of call it the 8 miling of advocacy, where it's a very famous, probably I'm older now, not so famous movie with Eminem, his essential backstory, and at the end he essentially his freestyle is essentially making fun of himself, but what he's doing is undercutting the other guy's points before he gets to it. I know it seems like a remedial comparison, but it actually holds it holds a lot of weight, because if you're able to argue well enough that you understand both sides, then you could essentially preempt your opponents and speak to issues that they're going to speak against, but add such clarity to it that by the time they're speaking to it, it seems like a moot issue. No offense, no pun intended. JP.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think one of the things that you're often scored at various moots is that ability, right? So if you are the appellant, if you go up and say, well, I know the respondents are going to bring up these points, here's how we respond to it, or here's our position on that, however you phrase it, whatever you discuss. And now if the respondents get up and then they literally say what you told them they're going to say, you've bludgeoned sort of the effectiveness of that, right? Because you've said, I know they're going to bring this point up, here's our response, and then they bring up that point, right? Well, you've already preempted that statement there. And if you're on the respondent side, you have the advantage of, I mean, you shouldn't just be focusing on what you're going to say. You should be listening to what the appellants have brought up and directly respond to that in your submissions. Now, the appellants mentioned A, B, and C. However, we would point to D, E, and F on that particular point. And so you've retaliated, you've hit back on what they've said, right? So again, regardless of if you're the appellant or the respondent, having that ability, I think, takes you to that next level, because it shows. I know Justin brought up the example of freestyling there, like in hip hop and 8 Mile. But I mean, our boy here, Drake, I remember shows up to a radio booth holding his BlackBerry and reads off rap lyrics, it's not the same, right? It lacks the effectiveness if you are simply focused on what you've prepared and you're ignoring what was brought up by the other side or what may be brought up by the respondents to follow. And especially because you have the ability, you have researched both sides already. It's not like you're only coming in doing one side and you're not well versed on the other side. You should know because I mean, if you're really effective, and you and your moot partner can pair off, one doing the respondent, one doing the appellant, or if you're fortunate enough to be at a school where they're sending multiple teams, and that's what it should be. We'll be the appellants, you be the respondents, and let's have like a real scrimmage.
Yeah,
Alex?
and I want to jump back on this just to show you guys directly how this is a transferable skill. Because when you're doing trial advocacy, and you'll learn this quite quickly, or in hearings, you can prepare all day and night, but if you're not paying attention to the developments of the person, for instance, in criminal, whether doing the examination in chief of their witness, you're going to miss some very key elements. If you're just sitting there reading your notes and not paying attention to what's being said by the other side, you're going to miss some real chances to add some instability to their arguments. So paying attention is absolutely crucial in these things. And between rounds, you're going to find that you're going to be making alterations. And the reason you're making these alterations is twofold. One, because of the arguments you've heard that made sense that you didn't think about. And two, the judges' questions. When the judges ask questions, guys, you need to be writing down the questions for your partners. It's absolutely important because between rounds, that's where you get to reconfigure or sharpen up some of the arguments based on maybe some of the ambiguity that the judges have shown a light on in your arguments, right? And so there's a lot of note taking going on. It's absolutely essential. And when you do trials and you do hearings in your real practice, you'll see how directly it's apples to apples here when it comes to what you're able to do. Sam asked, at the watch party, will there be an opportunity to rehearse in front of Justin and JP, like how we did during the Centennial Cup prep sessions? So I believe the watch party will be more of exactly that, a watch party, networking, eating pizza in your pajamas, and watching the case and just kind of just enjoying the night. I don't want to get, I wouldn't want people to be too concerned with work at that point. Too much work is never good for you as far as, getting you prepared. Alex will be running the coaching session. She'll do an excellent job. Whether or not that requires one-on-one training on days that she's available, where you want to run by some of your arguments, that's up to her. Me and JP have more of a hands-off approach this time around for coaching. Our goal is to manage the actual event and make sure it runs smooth. JP?
Yeah, so again, we'll at the very end, Alex can share her availability and how to get in communication with her with respect to that. And again, I think our focus there, I mean, given even some of the judges apparently are former students of mine too, that I think we're going to kind of, in the interest of being, out of the scope there to just focus on the delivery of the competition, make sure you're well fed and everything runs smoothly on that end. And we'll come in and I guess observe. I don't think we'll even be judging, given the great amount of judges we have. So I think we can kind of go and enjoy it from that perspective, and we'll be happy to share, for anyone here or anyone else that competes, some of our own feedback in the future.
And Alex just put in the group chat where you can be reached if you like more intimate coaching sessions. And I mean intimate, of course, in the least intimate way possible. But there will be general coaching sessions as well. I think at least one or two before the actual competition. Alex is a great coach. She's coached I think she coached the entire team from London. And I think another school as well, Alex. And so, yeah, I have the utmost faith in her ability to prepare you guys. Should be a good time.
Yeah, just to kind of summarize this portion, and we'll talk a little bit about the town hall and some of the events that I think we've already mentioned leading up to it and resources. But again, this is invaluable. I think, even if, I know, I have an 8-year-old and we're like, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's how you play the game. But I mean, it really is important just, I know a lot of people obviously are competing to win prizes and take the overall competitions that they've competed in. But I think even just going and doing it, I've had, I don't know how many thousands of students, probably now in the last 10 years, that it only improves your ability in your future planning. If you want to be a paralegal or a lawyer, or even just presenting, right? The more opportunities you get, I was just telling my legal drafting and communication class earlier, you're going to get better with experience, right? And this is a time where you get excellent opportunities, even just to network with some of the people that we have who are judging. Um, People get internships, people get connections through the people you meet and competing, as well as just friendship, right? People have doing the same thing, have the same interests as you. They're going to be natural people you're going to advance through your education and your professional careers with. That they're great resources to build on, right? So you're going to get better whether you are the champion team or not. You're going to enjoy the experience. It really puts a practical spin on things some of you may be learning in pre-law or in paralegal college, and there are many of them, right? So look at the calendars, look at the various schools that are putting, or colleges and universities, and try to compete as many as you can, and you'll get better over time. And I think, the more the merrier there. And so, Justin, maybe I'll leave it to you to talk a little bit about who our Chief Justice is at the Talon Hall Cup.
Yeah, so I've known Maya my entire career. I started off, I was lucky enough to share an office with her for close to a decade. She is one of the best appeal lawyers I've ever seen do appeals. She's practiced solely in the area of criminal defense at both the trial and appellate levels. She is a Toronto director of the Criminal Law Association. She is the litigation director for the Women in Canadian Criminal Defense. That's one of Alex's love passions. She has spoken on panels regarding drug policy, the interaction between criminal and immigration law, and other criminal issues. Prior to starting her practice, Ms. Martin completed a clerkship at the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, the OCJ, where she learned about the inner workings of the justice system. She appears quite often before the Ontario Court of Appeal and the Nunavut Court of Appeal. She has appeared at the Supreme Court of Canada for both individuals and interveners. As I indicated earlier, she's actually argued on behalf of the Criminal Law Association in her intervener capacity for this very case. Maya also argued this case, as I said, at the Supreme Court. And just in general, Maya's a terrific lawyer and an even better person. And I'm really happy to have her. She will add some really good insight into the matter. And sitting as our Chief Justice, I think adds that next level of prestige that we are hoping to accomplish.
Perhaps, I guess, Justin or Shania, one of these initiatives that we have that's kind of unique in our Town Hall Cup Moot later this month. Maybe you want to share a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and Shania, if I don't explain everything, please feel free to jump right in after me. But this is something that we wanted to do. It's no secret that mooting can be quite stressful for all parties involved, but mostly, and if not very specifically, for the competitors. And sometimes you just want a quiet space to gather your thoughts or to make notes. And the general background noise of the competition can be a lot. A lot of teams are in the hallway, and if there's multiple schools showing up, they're also coalescing together and kind of speaking and talking about what happened and things of that nature. And sometimes you just want a place to relax, or sometimes you're feeling anxiety. So we have the regroup and rejuvenation room. It's a space. They'll be marked with R&Rs. There'll be nothing but gentle sounds and a place to kind of escape the insanity that's happening just outside those doors.
Yeah, just to echo what Justin said, obviously we all know the legal field is very demanding. You really do have to take care of your mental health. So we thought that this would be a good idea. Mooting especially is very, very stressful. As someone who has mooted myself, I know how stressful it can be. And especially when you're dealing with sensitive topics, such as the one in this case, it might become a bit overwhelming, or you just want a place to just unwind and just quiet the noise for a while. So yeah, you can go into this room, and as Justin mentioned, it'll just be either silence or maybe just some very gentle like white noise, things like that. So just a place for you to unwind and gather yourself, gather your thoughts, and get back into the competition.
Yeah, I think that covers it. There's some resources there for you. The very good participant package that Shania put together is also full of resources and direction. I guess this is the time that we reserve for any questions from you guys. If anybody has a question, just raise your virtual hand or put it in the chat, and we'll answer those questions.
Yeah, and if while they're coming in, just wanted to quickly touch on the case itself. So in terms of IM, there is the link in here or you can look it up on the Supreme Court. They give a little case brief on the Supreme Court website, as well as again, there's those resources where you can watch the delivery by those who have argued the case at the Supreme Court. Additionally, as Justin alluded to, there was one of, again, organizations we work really well with, had a recent conversation with the Honorable Justice Brock Jones, who was a speaker at our last event, and Emma Rhodes, who is a prominent criminal lawyer in the field of youth. So they had a talk with Maya Shakari, who is going to be one of our judges, I believe, on the 27th and 28th. And you can watch it as they kind of break down the case. Again, it might help you get a perspective of understanding it before you wade into listening to the whole case, reading the decisions, kind of like a summary, like a trailer, I know, before the movie. So I'd highly encourage you to watch that. And as well as Justin alluded to, next Friday is the watch party. So if, again, a more social aspect of, you don't want to be necessarily watching it at home on your own, where you can watch it with others. Again, people who are passionate about mooting and law and in a social, fun environment where you eat pizza, come and check it out as well before the competition on the 27th, 28th. I don't see if there are any questions. I think Shania addressed the one about the information. Last thing, I guess we'll talk to you about the actual structure and perhaps Justin, if you want to touch on the timings and everything like that.
Yeah, so usually day one starts around the competition itself starts around 10 a.m. Check-ins around 8. And then we have a opening speech and all that good stuff, networking, a little bit of snacky snacks. And then each person, gets 8 minutes per submissions. And so it goes you and your partner right after another. So it's 16 minutes per team. Once your arguments are done, the other team will go up. They'll have their 60 minutes divided again. Has 8 and 8 for each individual. The appellant always holds the right of reply. Remember, in the right of reply, and Alex, of course, we'll get into this, but the right of reply is not a chance to make new submissions. It's only a chance to correct or to point out something that was said incorrectly by the other side. And then that we'll have 4 rounds. You'll do 2 appellates, 2 respondents. Each round will be marked by the judges, who will hand over their marks to us. We will punch it up in our calculations, and then we will announce the teams moving forward to day 2. Day 2 starts a little bit later. I think check-in is at 9. The competition starts around 10 or 11, I think, again, as well. Those details will be more ironed out soon. Then we get 12 minutes per speaker, so it's 24 minutes per team. And these are elimination rounds. They're not, it's not like the first day where you'll be doing for sure for 4 rounds. If you make it to day 2 and you lose the first round you're in, you are no longer moving forward. And then the finals will have 14 minutes per speaker for 28 minutes per team. And of course, we're going to, I think I mentioned this before in my LinkedIn post, but these will be live streamed, the finals. So it'll be really cool. Family and friends could watch, as well as other competitors from day 1 if they don't want to attend in day 2. Also, spectators are free. So if you wanted to have your friends or family attend and watch you argue, they're more than welcome to join us. The only caveat is that only participants and judges will be fed lunch. Dun, dun, dun. Other than that, everybody's more than welcome to attend.
Perfect. And on that point, the rounds, again, just to be clear, you have a partner. So one of you will be speaking for no, 8, 10, 12, or 14 minutes, then the other will follow. Even though you're preparing for both the appellant and the respondent, each round you're only doing one side. So you'll be focused on the appellant round, maybe the second round you'll do the respondent, third round back to the appellant, fourth round the respondent, but any combination where you're going to be acting as the appellant twice and as the respondent twice. The judges, one of the things there will typically stay in the same room. They'll preside over like a real life courtroom in the building, and competitors will move around according to the schedule to different courtrooms throughout the first day. In the rare, I mean, I guess it's a 50-50 chance that we have an odd number of teams. We may have a team that typically will do an appellant only with no response because it won't really impact them if there is no respondent, but I'm hoping we get an even number of teams, so it's not an issue to worry about. Again, focus on the IM case, the related case law there. Don't bring anything up. And if you are going to run out of time, so we have time, court clerks that will tell you times throughout that, whether it's 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or 14 minutes. But if you're about to run out of time, ask for a brief indulgence, which extends you with 30 seconds, sorry, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds more to wrap up your points. But again, if you're given that indulgence, wrap up your points. Don't go on to a new point. And don't try to speed walk through 30 seconds as quickly as you can to get everything in there. Again, effectiveness is hitting that time, answering the judge's questions, getting through all your points, whether it's 8, 10, 12, or 14 minutes to do the best in the competition.
Yeah, I think that you know, I think that explains everything quite well. Unless you have anything to add, JP, I want to get Alex in here. I know I'm going to be mindful of everybody's time.
Yep. So yeah, again, only other thing is whether or not we'll have a quarterfinal round will depend on. I think we're almost closing in on that number, but in either event, the awards are generally based on the first day. The teams that advance will be based on the scores, and then from there it's like a knockout. Think of like the playoffs in football or something. You get one round. You win, you win or you go home, as they say. Well, not you don't have to leave the building, but point being is that it won't be scored, but the judges will tell you which teams advance. The team that is higher ranked based on the first day will get the choice of if they want to be the appellant or the respondent, and then we move on to the semifinal and then the finals accordingly, which will be live streamed, as Justin said. So I want to turn this over now to Alex, who can talk about her availability and any other tips and any other questions that may be coming up from anyone here.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the information that's circling around, and definitely it's nice to refresh all of the key information required. It's always nice to also talk about these extra opportunities. Definitely, I agree with what's been shared about networking and sticking with your colleagues and the competitors, because these are people you will hopefully see in a courtroom one day. Maybe on the same side if you have a co-accused, but hopefully you can compete with them in real life if you have a prosecutor and defense dynamic. I'm just trying to look at the slide here. This is the calling all volunteers slide.
Yeah, so don't worry about the slides so much. Just talk about the coaching sessions, what you'll offer, and how and you've already put in very graciously your contact, but yeah, just kind of speak to that.
Okay, yeah. So my coaching experience is like very neutral. So I can't do the work for you, but of course I can help teams in the PMs. I'm trying to work on a link here to put out to like the network so that you can sign up when everyone is available, and that way we can all meet at a agreed upon time. The way I approach coaching is to make sure that you've actually read and used the materials, because again, as my colleagues have already stated, you have everything in there. So the way I've coached in the past is making sure, have you covered all four corners of the appellant? Have you covered all four corners of the respondent? And then also just really grilling you on questions, and not to be mean, but to really put you to the test and kind of prepare you and get you over your anxiety with questions with me so that you don't break down during the competition. And definitely practicing certain parts of the what you've prepared is more where I focus my coaching on. So what I've done in the past with students is like, I'll just ask them, like, what do you have prepared today? Even if it's nothing, I can't necessarily give you the answers, but we can discuss about a plan and strategize. How are we going to get you to a certain point to compete based off of any timeline you have? So I can't do the work for you, but I can definitely help guide you on looking at the neutral pieces that will help get your argument going, and then also put you to the test. How well can you stand that argument? I'm usually available after 6 p.m. on weekdays. It's just because I work in law and I'm the junior, so I never really get home until all the files have been reviewed. But also, I've provided my email in the chat, and when I share that sign up link for meeting times, I'm definitely available, and I can work with other teams as well. If it's something not listed on the website, you can email me anytime. I'm happy to work with schedules, figure out conflicts. My school's almost done, so I'm basically free.
So if
Oh,
you
and connect on LinkedIn. I would love to connect on LinkedIn with anyone, even if you're a competitor. That's fine. Just shoot me a message on LinkedIn.
Yes, Alex Pummer on LinkedIn, Pummer. Thank you so much, Alex, and we all appreciate your time and energy on this. I know you're a busy, very busy person. You just finished or getting close to completing your paralegal studies. I know myself and JP are very proud of your progress. And again, we very much appreciate you being a part of this. Okay, well, if we have no questions, none have come in. We'll leave the next 2 minutes or so dead air if anybody wants to ask a question. But other than that, thank you for your time this evening. We know you guys are all busy, and we hope to see many of you at the actual competition.
Right, and again, earlier there was the if you want to volunteer, if you're not going to compete, we're happy to have more volunteers, and as well, again, there'll be other competitions put on by other colleges and universities. So I think hopefully if you're thinking about getting into mooting, and if anyone's watching this later on, a lot of these can be used. Just pay attention obviously to the specific rules of those events, and don't feel like you've had to do it for years to be there. I mean, sometimes there's like 60 something teams competing, so I mean, go and take advantage of it, get the exposure, and you'll only get better by doing it. And not only are you going to get better at these competitions, you're gonna get better as students, right? I think as Justin told us about, his work, as a professor. I mean, we were also taught Shania as well that you get better in terms of approaching problems though in your curriculum, in your pre-law or paralegal studies, and anything beyond there. So, seeing that there are no more questions, I think that we're going to wrap up. Thank you everyone again for taking the time and joining us. And if you do have any other questions at any time, you can shoot us an email, whether on LinkedIn or at our email address, and go from there. All the best.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.